Warning, there are spoilers ahead for HBO's Barry, and so if you haven't seen the show by now, I would strongly advise that you don't watch this video because it's one of the best TV shows on at this current moment. With that being said, Barry Season 3, it's been a mixed bag for me. I thought the first two episodes were quite stellar in quality, had a very strong sense of direction. The last three have been serviceable, not quite mediocre, they've been good, they've had some funny moments in there, but it hasn't been anything extraordinary for me, and I'm quite confused as to how the season is going to wrap up, the themes that have been juggled around throughout the season, and how all these different plot lines are going to kind of coalesce, because it's been a messy ride, in my opinion, for much of Season 3. Barry has a lot going on right now, and really the only safe prediction I have for the end of the season is that it's going to end on a dire, sour note. But that's the most obvious thing you can say, because ever since the death of Detective Janice Smalls, we know that Barry is headed in a negative direction. We know that the violence that the character has committed is going to catch up to him, and that pretty much everything good in his life is going to fall to ashes. And so we know that the end of the season is going to end poorly, but it doesn't quite seem like something as dramatic as the death of Jean or Sally is going to occur yet. It seems like that would be much more likely in a concluding season of Barry in Season 4 or 5, although it seems as though that just one more season would be proper for this type of series. And so what's going to happen at this end? How is Barry going to face the consequences? Who is going to die? Well, I don't know, because we're going to have to deal with the Hank and Cristobal subplot. Barry Season 3, in my opinion, has done a poor job of weaving in the side characters into the main plot and making them feel vital to Barry's overall development. This can be said of NoHo Hank. When it comes to him, it's like the writers just have him call Barry once in a while to do a favor to remind viewers that he's part of the universe. Hank's relationship with Cristobal has made him so tangential to the main plot that it doesn't even feel like the story is very important anymore, which is a shame because, yes, NoHo Hank is funny, we like to laugh at him, but he's also been a very revealing part of Barry's personality. NoHo Hank just hasn't been very present for Barry's character arc of this season. When he has been, he's making sly remarks that kind of belabor the theme of the entire season, that Barry is an angry, repressed male. And that's exactly what happens in Crazy Time Shit Show, where he just kind of laughs off that Barry is the definition of what we have come to know as a toxic male in the later half of the 2010s. And this has been a thesis that Barry has been building on for at least 2 seasons now. It's just that Hank, at this point, is not revealing anything the audience doesn't know, and when he does talk, it's more so that the writers are kind of translucently telling the audience exactly what they're thinking and not really expressing it in a very creative or deep way. And NoHo Hank is a fucking difficult character to do correctly. I mean, so funny, so focused on making you laugh, and yet still a character that is able to say very poignant things about the world of Barry, still very much in danger, still very much has his dramatic moments. Yet at this point, I don't think we've gotten nearly enough of him and Cristobal to make the moment where Cristobal is taken away work. Like when he's crying in the closet, it's like, yes, I care about NoHo Hank's feelings, but I don't care about his love interest at all. When we have seen Cristobal, it's been mainly for laughs, and even then, I think Hank and Cristobal have been kind of the weaker comedic characters of the season, and so they're not really scratching that itch either. When you have the main characters that are doing the dramatic heavy lifting being far funnier than they are, well, there's just not a lot to say good about these two. And I think the same can be said about the disposable nature of the Russian, Bolivian, Chechen gang politics at this point. Like with the destruction of the compound this week, it's kind of been made a joke of all of the gang warfare that's going on in Barry. We've had so many disposable figures at this point come in and out of the equation. Now we have Cristobal's ex, and none of them, again, emerge enough to be a formidable comedic or dramatic force that you don't feel anything. You're not happy to see them on screen because they're full of personality, and you also don't recognize that they're important because they really aren't to the overall equation of Barry, because he's not really dealing with them. And Sally hasn't really been dealt with in a much better manner. When I first started Barry, I was concerned it was going to be too self-reflexive of Hollywood. It was going to be too focused on movie and theater references and talking about the entertainment industry, and it really hasn't been, and I'm so glad because the commentary on that feels so tired at this point that who has anything new to say? The entertainment industry is unfair, it's filled with stupid stuff, what's the point of beating that to death? Well, Sally's arc in this season is kind of defined by that. It started with the Ben Mendelsohn episode with the numerous reporters asking her the most ridiculous inane questions on planet Earth, and I guess that was fine. But like in this week, with the algorithm knocking off Sally's show in less than 24 hours, At this point, it's so ridiculous and hyperbolic, the commentary that we get on the entertainment industry being unfair and studio executives being just the worst people on planet Earth, that the criticism is kind of rendered moot. Because, yeah, we get it, but no one's that unreasonable. No one is going to be listening to this insane algorithm that dictates whether or not you have a show that works in less than 24 hours. And honestly, with so many streaming services putting forth shows and rubbing it in your face that there's new content out, this doesn't even feel like a genuine critique anymore. And so having Sally's arc this season being so defined by that, being so reliant on trying to take shots at the industry when so many people have already, I just don't think it was a great move. Because like with Hank, again, this takes Sally away from Barry. These side plots are removed from Barry. And so when we have Sally break up with Barry, yes, we have that crux scene where Barry freaks out at her office. But besides that, we haven't seen that much interaction between them in this season. In fact, we've probably had the least interaction between them out of all the seasons so far. So when that moment hits, again, like with Cristobal leaving Hank, I didn't really feel anything. It feels like a deflated moment that didn't quite earn the emotion that it wants to evoke. And the same can be said with this week where she's getting all upset at Barry being scary. And yes, what he's saying is very creepy and again reinforces his own arc that he is a very, very bad man. But Sally being scared and wishing him away, again, just doesn't quite work the way the writers wanted to because we haven't seen that much of them to begin with this season. Kusuno has had the best out of any of the side characters this season. The past 2 weeks of him haven't been particularly entertaining, but they have been important, because in quite an ingenious way, Barry has given Kusuno the second lease on life that everyone thinks Kusuno gave Barry. By threatening Kusuno's life, the lives of his family, by making everyone think he's a good actor on Laws of Humanity, and everyone thinking that he's a good person, well, now Kusuno has a whole wealth of opportunities thanks to Barry. He has a blossoming relationship with his family, able to buy them a new house to move into. He has a job in the industry which he hasn't been able to secure for decades. He is able to make amends with people that he has wrongfully hurt. Kusuno has a new life now. And again, maybe not what we want to see out of Henry Winkler. We'd like to see him be a little bit more funny on the show. But this is a changed Kusuno, an important Kusuno, one that has been able to drastically remove himself from the purely erratic, kind of selfish person that we see in Season 1 to a genuinely good person we see now at the end of Season 3. And we get to see that maybe Barry's actions can, after all, help someone, make someone better off, which I think is somehow going to collide with the rest of the season, but maybe not. Because we also have to remember Fuchs. Fuchs is somehow a part of this equation because he's rallying like a whole army of people against Barry to seek revenge on him. So are we going to see Barry versus everyone he has ever wronged in this series at the end, despite some of the good that he has done for Kusuno? Are we going to see that collision course? Well, I thought we were going to be seeing it with that mother and son duo. But considering that the son got shot, well, it seems as though that they're not going to be part of this finale, even though I thought that they were going to be kind of the final encounter for Barry in the season, which I'm glad they're not, because I think that would have been a rather predictable end to the season. But now, who the fuck knows what's going to happen? How many people that Fuchs has notified about Barry and his current residence, current lifestyle? Are we going to see an episode like Ronnie and Lily where it's just pure action of Barry versus all these people? It seems like that's kind of where it's heading, but who knows? Because with Fuchs, we've been barely seeing the man. He had like a minute and a half of screen time this week. And we also have to deal with the detective that Barry knew in the war now coming to investigate Barry and try and lock him up, and somehow him being introduced halfway through the season is going to work. How does anyone make sense of this? Like, when I titled the title of this video, "Where is Barry going?" I didn't really have an answer to that question. I didn't pose that question with an intended answer to give, because I really don't know where the fuck it's going. It's genuinely. I thought that mother and son duo were going to be the final encounter for Barry. I thought that Sally's co-star on her show was definitely going to be an investigative force looking into Barry's past, and that he was going to have to kill her in the end. But that doesn't seem to be the case because she was completely absent from this week's episode, and it doesn't seem like there's enough time for the rest of the series, or rather the rest of the season, to get her back involved in the game, especially when we have a new character that is going to be investigating Barry. So what the hell is going to happen? How are these elements going to successfully coalesce at the end of the season when so much seems out of whack? Who knows? But Barry has a lot of plates going on right now, spinning a lot of plates. I think it's dropped a lot of them. I don't think that the plates have necessarily fallen to the ground and crashed, but a lot of Season 3 just hasn't scratched that itch in the same way that the first 2 seasons have. But I hope it's able to rebound and come with a successful season finale, season end in these last 3 episodes. And that's the video.